Good evening, everybody. It is the Old Wolf here, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Rochester, New York. March 1st, 2022 for another episode of the Witch and Wolf Wisdom. We took a break last week as the wonderful lady Shiya did her The witch had to do her witchy shit. 2022
Tuesday.
Whole lot of motherfucking twos. But it was, it was cool. You guys had a really good time, and it was a worthy cause to skip out on my podcast and let you guys do your thing, manifest. Do your witchy shit.
I like doing my
April, how you doing? How are everybody out there tonight? So yes,
hello.
Tonight's episode is All These Squares Make a Circle. It's an obscure little reference, and anybody who knows what that particular little reference is from as a trivia question will get a free reading from the Old Wolf. But I severely doubt anybody's going to get it. But I'll throw it out there anyway.
I know what it is.
I know you know what it is, but you're not getting a fucking reading from me. But anyway, yes, tonight's episode, All These Squares Make a Circle.
Left out.
Gonna talk about a couple of things. Gonna promo out the completed track for Demons. I know you popped it out on your live the other night. We have it out on YouTube. But I always make it a point to premiere them on the podcast as well, because we have some people who do come in here who don't go on the readings and vice versa between Facebook and YouTube. So yes, that will be coming a little bit later. As always, again, thank you everybody for your support. It is how we do the things we do. Like and share.
Thank you.
Be if it's if it's a track from YouTube, or if it's one of the lives or the podcast, every little bit helps for us. Yes. And we do have a bunch of things that we do. One of which being the contest, and we've gotten a couple of we got a few replies actually.
Submissions.
Some really interesting stuff. For those of you who don't know, it's a writer's contest. Win readings, crystals, and songwriting credits. Basically, write a poem, a spell, a mantra. Try and keep it under 50 words. The 50-word thing has been kind of like this kind of floating goalpost. We had this thing with Ad. She's like, I have 54. And I think it was Deanna that was like, she had like 138,000 words or something. But it's all good. It's all cool. Try to the best of your ability. But as always with our contest, no purchase necessary. Prizes hold no monetary or transfer value. Though the crystal gift certificates are really cool.
Yes.
I mean, I got to admit,
super cool.
You know what I mean? Mystical Moons, she's really great. Some incredible stuff that she has. And, these are the little things that we try and do. And I'm going to throw her thing up there right now just to...
Because Suzanne's awesome.
Yeah, 25% discount.
Yeah, just don't name
just by dropping Shiya's name.
Or Wolf's.
Right. But each of the 3 prizes will include a $25 gift certificate to Mystical Moon. So, yeah, I mean, again, it's just one of those little things for people who interact and hang out with us and stuff. Throw your thoughts, your feelings down into a thing and, maybe win some cool shit. We try and keep it simple.
In fact, somebody recently won some cool shit.
Yes, Ash Buck won the last contest. She won a custom sweatshirt from my brother Tony Rodriguez.
Yeah, next time I'll have those pictures up on the computer for you to be able to show everybody how cool it was.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, Tony's involved in a couple things. First and foremost, he is the lead artist, owner of Under My Skin tattoo shop down in Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey. He is a world-renowned tattoo artist in general, great guy. He also does the Papo Sticker Company. He makes everything, again, from sweatshirts and t-shirts to hats and stickers and coffee mugs and
I don't think he
anything you could imagine that has an artistic type of overlay.
So gifted. And he hardly
really cheap. Listen, very, very cheap pricing. You know what I mean? It's a great thing, to kind of do with.
Look, y'all should get something now before he gets smart and raises
those prices. Yeah.
You know,
but I mean, again,
probably really should.
it's the little things. Like, I know a lot of people have, you know, little, as they say, you know, volunteer groups and nonprofit types of
I think
things,
that's great. Stickers
or,
and
you know,
magnets and
social
stuff for that.
clubs or
Yep.
things they do with their kids. So there's a whole variety of little things, you know what I mean, that you can do and customize them to make them unique. And it really is cool, you know what I mean? It's just, again, that little piece of magic. And then, of course, he's the bass player, you know, center guy in Broken Past.
This guy takes
My old
garage,
job.
What started as a garage band.
Started as a garage band back in the day.
What? Tell people about his garage now.
Oh, his
my
garage
God.
now is a full, you know, it's a full-blown studio.
studio.
It is WC Studios.
Yes, it is like.
Which, by the way,
literally-
WC Studios will be the quote-unquote label studio
for your
that the album will be released under. We decided we're going to do 50 copies of the album. They will be unique and special with, you know, a little bit of artwork and other, you know, specific little things. All the music will be out there for free. The CDs, the album itself, those print copies will be more, you know, of a novelty collector's item type
Those
of
won't
thing
be
for
free.
anybody who wants it.
Those won't be free, but
No, they will not be
worth
free.
having.
But the
no,
music.
we end up going over to Tony's. First time I met Tony, we end up going over to Tony's, and we're hanging out outside, and we're barbecuing, we're grilling, we're having a good time. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go in the garage and play some music." Next thing I know, I'm hearing some music coming in from the garage, and I'm like, "How the hell do I
Whoops.
get in there?" And finally,
You had
somebody
to
showed
sneak
me how
your
to get in
you had
there.
to sneak your way through the tattoo shop.
Right.
Yeah.
And they showed me how to get in there. And then I walk in, I'm like, this is not a fucking garage. This is a whole, I mean, this is like Abbey Road, Jersey style.
Yeah.
You know, you guys had the whole studio in there. I'm like, holy crap.
Yes, indeed. But anyway, these are some of the services that we do provide. I don't always remember, but I'm going to remember this time. Shiya and I both do private readings. She does lives Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights.
Yes.
You have the mentorship circle.
Yes.
We do counseling, custom music, custom videos, pretty much anything you could imagine within that complete sphere.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And the mentorship circle, you know, I can't talk enough about that.
That's got
So I'll let you
a
talk
lot
about
of
it.
yeah. There you go. That's got a lot of information. And I've got some. I've been working on doing the tarot unit, and right now we're about to launch that out this coming week on the videos for all the cards. We've got all the intro done and out there on the mentorship circle on, you know, learning the basics of the stuff behind tarot. But actually, the tarot cards and how to read them and stuff is what we're developing now. So if you've been wanting to learn tarot, that's, you know, be in there. Plus we do shadow work and lots of other topics, spell work, meditations,
Different workshops. Now, some of the other things that
Workshops.
are coming up, you know, I guess we can casually mention them. You have your private video readings and stuff, which is slightly new, but, you know, for those people who don't have the ability to come on during your lives and stuff
or
like
want
that.
something a little bit more private. Yeah.
My son, the Indigo Monkey, is going to be doing a series of, let's call them fairy tales and fables.
Yeah.
That we're going to record, and we're going to do you know, a little bit of animation, a little bit of customized music background, but again, a little bit different type of approach. You know, some of the music, and especially the stuff that I've been finishing up recently for the album, a lot of it has darker undertones because they were written to kind of not only express that, but in some ways for me as my own form of shadow work.
Yeah.
And I'll talk a little bit about that more later. But again, expanding upon the things that we have been doing, obviously, you know, the contests and the readings and, you know, the little things that all go in between. We have the alternate recovery group, which we started with our good friend Ashley Hart, which is just, again, basically, you know, a forum.
Where people can come together.
Right. Talk
All
about
support each
elements
other.
of recovery, you know,
Yeah.
be it whatever type of recovery that is. You know, again, a lot of different things. Strength in numbers, as they say. So with that being said, one of the things that I wanted to do tonight was, again, a little bit more upbeat. Granted, obviously, demons is not exactly the most upbeat track, but I think it does have some of those elements.
I think it's great. I love it.
Obviously we have some craziness going on in the world, so I didn't want to let that just kind of roll on by. I didn't want to, again, drag us too far down the rabbit hole, but I'm sure as most of you know, Russia has decided they want to be bigger. And their main poster boy, Putin, has decided, Ukraine looks like a tasty little dessert tidbit. And
this is nothing new. They've been staring at Ukraine off and on, and Ukraine's been fighting for their own independence and stuff like that for a long time. Did you see my analogy the other day?
Oh yeah, it was
that Ukraine is like the ex-wife of Russia that's trying to get away from the narcissistic ex-husband, and he's turned into a violent stalker.
Now, again, I want to make it clear, and, I talk about this, my views, my opinions are my own. I don't expect anybody else to subscribe to them, and I don't apologize for them. So first and foremost, let me say,
not sorry.
I stand with the Ukraine people.
Yes,
there is no excuse in the modern world anymore for this type of bullshit.
Nope.
To just roll over into somebody's country and start dropping fucking bombs on the city. Yep. Now, with that being said, I said this when we went into Iraq. I said it when we went into Afghanistan. This is unacceptable behavior. It doesn't matter if we do it or if Russia does it, because there is a huge human toll that goes with it. And Tom, you're absolutely right. Ukraine is a very, very rich mineral country.
Oh, very much so.
And, again, just from the geopolitical element and from the historical context, Ukraine used to be part of the old Soviet Union. So in a lot of ways, let's be really honest about this, a lot of Russians look at Ukraine kind of like how we look at Texas. You know what I mean? And just imagine if Texas just decided to be like, hey, you know what? We've had enough of this fucking shit. We want to be our own.
Texas...
And then the Mexicans decide, they want to start creeping up through there. I can guarantee you, we wouldn't be reacting pleasantly about it as a country. I get it. I understand there's differing views, but when innocent people are dying, at some point we have to look at things differently. Yeah. There has to be a better way to approach this. I don't think it's right. It doesn't matter if it's the Israelis going into the West Bank or China going into Hong Kong. These are people who have lives and families, and they're deserving of a basic standard. Now, again, everybody's got their context, everybody's got their rhetoric, but I would just like to personally throw out my take on some of this. So, with that being said, this is what I'm going to call my fuck you, Putin, you scumbag segment.
I was just
now I'm going easy on this.
Shorting it to fuck Putin.
Yeah, I'm going easy on this, and these are just a couple of memes. I thought this one was good. If Vladimir Putin was a tutor, if you have math problem, I call KGB. No more math problem. I think that definitely kind of sums up in many levels about how he is perceived being, an ex-KGB character, and, some of, his, let's just call them behavioral patterns. For whatever his reasons, be it he has Parkinson's disease or he's been smoking crack for too long. Who the fuck knows?
I saw a picture of him today sitting on one side of a very long table and everybody else sitting far away on the other side of a very long table.
Now, these others have a little bit different context. Say what you want about politics, but I kind of like this one. You got Melania Trump here. She's like, do I still have to do the fucking Christmas stuff? And of course, Putin, what better response could this be? Fucking poison him. Come home. Now, again...
You need to do that with the accent.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it speaks for itself. No, you know what I mean? And again, take it how you want. It's the same with, the next one. I thought this was another great one. This is, for those of you who don't remember Kaylee as Trump's press secretary. Like, this president has been very tough on Russia. And you can see Putin just like, hey... Oh, yeah, it's been brutal. See, yeah, it is better sometimes with the accent, but the accent fucks up my throat, Tom, so You know, so sometimes, you know, you got to sacrifice things, even if it is better entertainment. Now, again, this is not a commentary about the politics and stuff like that, because, again, perception is just that. I will say this, and I heard an interesting piece over the weekend, and it came from comedian / talk show host Bill Maher. And I thought this was a really great element outside all the politics. At some point, we have to find those of us who are capable and willing of that middle ground, where it isn't about left or right, it's about us as a country, about America, about the ideals and philosophies that we do share and have in common. Not so much about the rhetoric and, you know, all the bullshit. And his point really was that at some point we have to let some of these other elements go. Okay, I come from a family that was deeply right-wing conservative for years. I know a lot of conservative people. They're not all racist, they're not all Nazis. For whatever reason, they have bought into certain elements of things. A lot of them haven't, you know, and, you know, some of this is, again, open to interpretation. But at some point, we have to, especially those of us in the middle, and for those of us who are on the left, we have to be more open-minded to say, hey, listen, you know what, we're still Americans, okay? You had a moment for whatever reason, but it doesn't mean that every person on the right is a Nazi. And on the flip side, every person on the left isn't a snowflake, isn't a fucking communist or a socialist. We have to get around some of these petty elements, and we have to find the common ground, because I think everybody can agree what's been going on for a while now isn't working. But we're seeing a little bit of a switch. And again, historically, America has been really good at coming together when it comes to fighting communism, okay? For better or for worse, you know what I mean?
Are you now, or have you ever been?
Hey, listen, I'm going to invoke the spirit of Joseph McCarthy.
Are you now?
And again, he was an asshole, but it did give us a common framework. And sometimes, you know, it's the lesser fucking evil. Yeah, I know it's not perfect. You know what I mean? I'm not saying, you know what I mean, that this, you know, justifies any type of, you know, insanity or bullshit. But, you know, at the end of the day, we can agree on certain common elements of things. You know, you look at Captain America. Captain America as a comic book hero was designed as a reflection to kind of create this new element, anti-fascism. You know what I mean? We had come out of World War II. We had fought Nazis. You know, we had stood together, black, white, red. Listen, we fought with the fucking Russians against the Nazis. We fought with Muslims against the Nazis. Okay? Now, here we are on the flip side, and Germany's an ally of ours, Japan is an ally of ours, but somehow we're still caught up in this old context of the Soviet Union. Guess what, people? The Soviet Union is not a communist country. China is still a communist country. But the Soviet Union, Russia is not a communist country in any shape or form context. They are a warped variation on capitalism, kind of sprinkled with some KGB butt flakes to create this new, you know, adaptation. But if you talk to everyday people, listen, I talk to everyday people from places like Ukraine and from Russia, New Zealand, Australia, from all over the goddamn world.
To get out from under that bullshit.
And most people are not reflective of their governments or the politics. Rebecca's like, it's time we take our USA still for freedom. We need to show back. I'm thinking I think it's supposed to be Biden is holding man to get out. Hey, listen, you know, actually, I get it. A lot of people don't like Biden. A lot of people don't like Trump.
If they're politicians, then I've got an issue.
Right. You know, our political system here in the United States is definitely fucking whacked. You know, I pine for the days of the John McCains. You know what I mean?
Are you now? Have you ever been?
Well, listen, you know, there is a case to be made about a middle ground. We're never going to agree on everything. you know, but our country was formed on some basic tenets, you know what I mean? Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, separation of church and state.
Yep.
This is the one that always drives me batshit. You know, people want to, you know, quote the Constitution and all these other things. And the first core tenet of that is the separation of church and state. You cannot have religion within politics. It does not work.
Yep.
Look at it historically. Look at every civilization that has completely fucking imploded on itself because it couldn't learn that simple
It's simply because,
element.
you know, religion has been used to control populaces forever.
Right. And it doesn't mean that all religion is bad. It just means that there are extreme elements no matter where you go. You have extreme on the left. You have extreme on the right. You have extreme aspects of Christianity. You have extreme aspects within Muslim elements. You know, you'll find it all across the board. So those of us, again, who at least care enough to try, we got to find that middle ground. We got to find a way to get back to the middle and be like, hey, now I'm not going to be the conspiracy theory guy. I don't think we're heading into nuclear war. I think this is the same shit show that we've been seeing for quite some time. We did it in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Look, I'm just going to come right out on the record and say I think we're lucky that we didn't have our own idiots starting weird-ass wars while in term. So they just got to get rid of Putin and get somebody else.
But to some degrees, that has to be handled. I mean, again, I think a lot of people, and I think this is the general consensus, we care about the people in Ukraine. We don't want to see any people die. But we have to learn how to take care of our own first. Okay, I don't know about anybody else, but I am not interested in sending our kids into another fucking shit show, having them come back in body bags and stuff. That's not the way this is going to work.
I have a friend whose son was just recently deployed on the border, so...
You know, and again, I understand that that is a catch-22, okay? But at some point, we have to be honest about what can we really accomplish, what can we really do, or are we just pissing in the wind? Are we just basically, you know, like two children, escalating a context? That doesn't mean that we don't help the Ukrainians. And Johnny, I agree with you. It really, someone needs to kick Russia's ass for some of the elements that they're doing. But I believe that has to really happen internally, because we know, and I think everybody here can agree with this, as Americans, we don't want anybody coming into our country and telling us how to do shit.
And we don't need anybody hitting any red buttons, launching anything insurrection.
Right. I don't want to inflame the situation. I don't think it makes sense, again, to escalate it. We do what we can to help the Ukrainians. We do the things that we can diplomatically. We do the sanctions. We cut them. I mean, again, the money is the best way to fuck with these assholes in many ways. We just got to stop being half-assed. Johnny brings up another great, you know, Anonymous, that hacker group is going after him.
Yeah.
You know, we can do things without escalating it into
and definitely continue to
like the, you know, the troops conflict stuff.
Public opinion actually makes a big difference too, and the more public opinion comes out for Ukraine and anti-Russia kind of stuff, then that kind of puts.
Listen, you got a lot of people within Russia that are saying this is not fucking good. This is not what we signed up for. It's not what we want. There are a lot of them that do. You know what I mean? And this is where it always goes sideways. So, again, it's not to say that I don't support them. It is not to say that I am pro-Putin in any fucking
No, we are
way.
definitely anti-Putin.
You know, and here's the analogy. And I hate to say this, and I am going to say it.
Uh-oh.
In a theoretical context, you look at what happened a few years ago in England with a couple of Russian dissidents who basically took off. And basically the story, the theoretical story, is that Putin sent, you know, some of his KGB cats in there, and some people got poisoned. Okay? We have dropped drones. We've sent, you know, fucking specialized combat teams to, you know, fucking chase Osama bin Laden into a fucking dirt hole, Saddam Hussein.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Tanks are right up in his house.
We took out that one guy. You know, we dropped another drone. He was one of the ISIS commanders. So it's not like we haven't used these particular elements, and it's not like, and I'm not saying this to condone violence, but if we really wanted to deal with this asshole, I'm just saying that, you know, there are obviously other options on the table besides, you know, a full-out fucking blown-out war.
Yeah, let's call Tom Cruise.
You know, just like, yeah, like, let's send Tom Cruise and the Scientologist in.
There you go.
You know what I mean? Let's have Kanye West write an album, and you know, we'll kind of, you know, set up some of that psychic fuckery in his album, so that way when he listens to it, his head will explode like fucking scanners. I don't know. These are all theoretical ideas. But there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way. And again, yeah, you know, this is what happens when certain elements are tolerated. You know, he has been doing shit for a long time, and there has been really little to no accountability. You know, a lot of people said, you know, well, you know, NATO and the UN is a fucking joke, because what do they really do? And if you think about it, if you know, listen, if we talk about it honestly, how is it supposed to work when you have a world body? They're trying to come up with a context because one of the members is fucked up, but that member can veto anything that goes against them.
Yep.
I mean, that's like poker with a deck full of fucking threes. I mean, it's insanity.
And they have been repeatedly blocking Ukraine from joining NATO.
And in many ways, NATO was a response to the Soviet Union post-World War II. And listen again, I've talked to people on that side of the fence, and they don't look at NATO the same way that we do. They look at NATO the way that we looked at Cuba back in the 60s. They see us creeping up closer and closer to their backyard with nuclear weapons and tanks and troops and shit. Now again, it's not always about what's real or what's right. It's that perception. Just like a lot of people look at Mexico and they think that everybody that comes from south of the border is a rapist or is a drug dealer, or, you know, listen, right? Stereotypes, they are what they are. We have to address them for what they are. Now, Suzanne over at Mystical Moons makes a great point. When the mothers and the families of those who are killed in this insanity go home in body bags, yeah, it's going to change the dynamic, just like it happened for us. Vietnam, Iraq,
had a heavy body toll.
Afghanistan. Listen, war is never truly popular. It's an illusion. It is a misconception. Yes, there are certain elements, you know, you can always say, well, you know, war is great for the economy. Well, it's great for some people's economy.
Yeah, I had
most working class people get fucked in the process, but that's another story.
Prices go up, inflation goes up.
Yeah, and that's, you know, again, all part of the little pieces that go around with it. And again, you know, some of it is that shit end of the stick. I don't like the context that innocent people have to die. I don't want to see kids blown up. I didn't like seeing it in Syria. I didn't like seeing it in the West Bank. I don't like seeing it in our own fucking culture.
Yep.
All right, but this is a reality. So how do we deal with the reality?
I saw them bombing a museum, priceless works of art once again, and history and stuff just going up in smoke.
Yeah, I mean, again, collateral damage. Collateral damage.
It's despicable.
Now, again, to spin this back onto a counter thing, and I wanted to keep it light, one of the things that has been coming up within the podcast, and for those of you who've been following, has been, as we call...
Oh, no. No.
Queen Bieber.
Oh, here we go.
And the ongoing saga of the Bieber.
I don't know if that Suzanne is here.
I don't know that she's here, but, you know, she hears it when she's around. But I'm going to tell everybody else. So, yes, at some point, the context about Bieber anal glands and artificial flavorings has become a thing. And for those of you who don't know, artificial vanilla, artificial raspberry, a lot of things uses a compound that comes from the anal glands of beavers. So I decided, hey, let's have some fun with this. So yes, for all of you who didn't know, you've been swallowing beaver ass juice called castoreum, and it comes from sacs near a beaver's anus, and it's used as vanilla or raspberry flavoring in food and drinks. Perfume, I found that as well too.
No.
In my research. Listen, that's crazy. It's just crazy shit. Now here's the obvious question might be, are strawberries so rare that the anal secretions of a beaver must be used to flavor strawberry ice cream?
Yeah, but
and again, just for the visual effect, for those of you who are actually watching and not listening, to the left is an actual beaver asshole to compare against your strawberry ice cream, in case anybody just really wasn't sure. Well, the more interesting question would be, who was the first to suck a beaver's ass and discover that it tasted of strawberries? Now, the debate is, did it taste like vanilla? Did it taste like strawberries?
What? Who went down on...
Suzanne Mystical Moods was like, she's so done with the strawberry ice cream. Sarah's like, oh, she just got the Starbucks raspberry flavoring. Listen, you can't make this shit up. This is the world we live in.
Oh my God, yes.
This was another great meme.
The beaver asshole.
Little penguin meme. And just imagine this scenario, you know, a young guy tries to compliment date on her perfume. And then, you know, that unfortunate, you know, when you open your mouth and your brain doesn't, you know, censor or edit it before it comes out.
No filter.
Did you know that perfume is made from beaver anal glands? No faster way to making sure there won't be a second date in that thing. So yeah, just some of the little comical memes.
Just wondering why she never...
To kind of balance out the whole horror of everything else going on around us. And it really is, you know, it's hard sometimes, you know what I mean? I have a hard time sometimes even turning on the fucking news. Because I just, in the back of my brain, I know it's just going to be some stupid, crazy,
insanity
fucking shit.
Today?
You know what I mean? Somebody has said something completely stupid. Somebody pulled their dick out where they wasn't supposed to. Somebody dropping bombs on somebody. It's like, holy shit, can we please just do a little bit better?
No.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
Awful lot.
I don't think it's asking too much, but you know.
An awful fucking lot right there.
Uh-oh, Becca's like, I got a story to tell you.
Oh,
well,
I
Becca,
need to hear a story.
Sister, go ahead. You go ahead and share your story. Brother Johnny says, another interesting and disgusting fact is that Russian tourists in Florida were arrested for breaking a law against having intercourse with a porcupine. Okay. Which begs the question, and this is a viable question, why was that law on the books?
That's a good point. Why would somebody want to have sex with a porcupine? I don't understand this. I don't understand the rationale for this. I don't understand the possibilities of this. I can't. No.
I don't know.
I can't.
But to answer Rebecca's question, and I understand, it is a difficult context when you look at this. However, I would humbly rebuke and say children are being killed every day all over the fucking place. It doesn't matter who's president. It doesn't matter about the politics. It is a human context. Yep. And human atrocity doesn't know religious boundary. It doesn't know political boundary. It doesn't know sexual or gender boundaries. It is just, again, that shitty human dynamic.
I saw an interesting meme.
You know, of the horror. You know what I mean? And again, I don't know, again, if where, you know, you can really turn. Because what are his options? And I don't care if it would be Trump or fucking Biden. I don't care, again, within the politics. no matter how you slice this, it's a shit show. So what? We send our kids in there to fucking die to try and stop the other kids from dying? Or do we try to the best of our ability to deal with the fact that, yes, we know people are dying, but how do we figure this out so more people don't fucking die? So, you know, it's a shit show.
Trying to cut them off economically.
You know, and again,
things we can do.
We're not going to all agree on the different things. However, I would, again, humbly suggest that throwing more gasoline on the fire is not going to help anybody. It just means more collateral damage and a bigger chance for this expanding out beyond what it is. Diana, my friend, my sister, how are you doing today as well?
Where's the fanfare, Diana? We need something.
Yes, it's a big shit sandwich. I agree.
Yes, it is.
And there are no easy answers, but we do, I think, have to think about this. And I would suggest, again, we look at it historically. It never works out. It didn't work out in fucking Korea. It didn't work out in Vietnam. It didn't work in Iraq. It didn't work in Afghanistan. It doesn't fucking work.
And I think that's important.
And it never has worked.
That we are not the world's police force. If the world's police force, aka NATO, needs to be involved, then that needs to be a global.
Listen, I'm all for trying to help people, but again, it is a simple context. I think if we don't take care of ourselves, how can we help anybody else? And we have too many problems going on. Now, again, that doesn't mean that I'm suggesting that we don't try and do certain things that we can, from a humanitarian context, from, you know, diplomatic and sanctions, and, you know, other elements of things that we could do without throwing more bombs or bodies into the mix. I think, again, and this is just the unfortunate reality, and we've just seen this play out too many times, you know, Ukraine is going to suffer, and they're going to get absorbed into this new Russian Federation. You know, Russia has committed to it. And I think, you know, again, if you look at all the data and everything that we know, they're not fucking around with this. No. You know, they're sending everything they have into this.
They're already looking and like dicks, so they're not going to back
this up. Is their border. This used to be part of their country, right or wrong, agree with it or not. From their perspective, Ukraine is part of Russia. So, again, I don't like it. I don't want it to happen, but I don't know what we can do at this juncture to really stop what's happened. You know what I mean? And I'm going to be honest, you know, if we were going to stop this element, we should have dealt with it when Russia first came into Crimea. And again, we've had a policy through multiple administrations, left and right, that has basically allowed Putin to do what he wants to do.
Yep.
Okay, this is no different than when they went into Afghanistan. We gave the Afghanistan army and the Taliban weapons and resources to help fight them. And then what ended up happening? When we went in there, they used those fucking weapons to kill our soldiers. Same thing happened in Iraq. So, I mean, again, and I agree, John, you know, John says this, you know, a lot of libertarians, you know, war is never the fucking solution.
No.
It is the last resort. Now, don't get me wrong.
What was saying. We are in a new century. We should be behaving differently at this point.
Don't get me wrong. There has to be a line, because a lot of people are making the historical reference to World War II. You know, nobody stopped Hitler when he invaded Poland, and look where we ended up. So, yeah, you can make a case for both ends of the spectrum. I don't know that, especially in the climate of today, that we can look at it in that same way, especially because, let's really be blunt, you know, the type of weapons and the elements that we have in play now are a lot more destructive. Now, Becca says she's going to start almost dying on Shiya's birthday. She's trying to write my song.
She almost OD'd on April 1st of 2020 and survived. So her song is going to be about her.
I couldn't understand it. Thank you for explaining it to me. Well, you know what? I'm glad that you didn't, and I think that's a great context to share within you know, a song, a story, a poem, because that's really, again, where a lot of the relatable emotional content. That was a framework with him when I wrote Demons.
And Rebecca, honestly,
I
Trump
think
sucks Putin's dick, so I think he would let Putin do
contest
whatever
the contest isn't over yet. Contest is not over yet. There's still plenty of time for people to put submissions in.
Got plenty of time,
I think this would have happened regardless if Trump or anybody else was in, because Putin's been setting this up for years. Okay, he was setting it up when Trump was in office. Yes. They were in Crimea. They were building bases. They were bringing in troops and setting up infrastructure to do this. Like, this type of invasion doesn't happen in a couple of weeks. They've been building up for this for years.
And Trump has recently...
And they've been talking about it
but here's the
for
thing
years.
Trump has recently come out publicly supporting the dickhead.
You know what, again, I don't want to get into the Trump politics. I think
but that
as an American, okay, that you can't subscribe onto it. I think that's definitely
subscribe on it.
But I understand that some of it is tainted with people they don't want to get involved in any other bullshit in any other country. They don't care if it's fucking Afghanistan. They don't care if it's Africa or Russia or Ukraine, and you can't blame them. We've seen too much war. We've seen too much death. Okay, and people are tired, and people want to take care of their own. You know, listen, let's talk about a side point here, and I think that this is important. As a culture, we talk a really good talk, and that's not pointing the finger at any of you, okay? But I'm going to say this bluntly because I think it needs to be said. But we haven't, for generations, we have not taken care of our service members. They go off and fight in wars, they die, they're traumatized physically, mentally, emotionally. They come back here, and we just basically, we talk a really good talk. We don't take care of them. Okay, we don't give them any context for healthy lives. We don't give them the support elements that they need. I know vets that struggle for years just trying to get a fucking appointment at the VA. Okay, I know kids have come back so fucked up from this, and basically we're told, hey, deal with it, man up. You know what I mean? And I think that's a bigger problem. If we cannot send our children to war if we're not willing to take care of them when we come back. Okay, and I don't care how much fucking money it costs. Okay, we've got money for all this other shit. If we're gonna fight wars, we have to take care of the people who fight the wars for us. Yep. You know what I mean? And actually, I agree. There are certain elements that this has gotten spun in the media. I will say this, however, though, I have seen his own words. I saw, him speaking about it, and he's made no qualms publicly that he is Putin's friend. He's been friends with Putin for many, many years. He's done business in Russia. Now, that doesn't make him a communist. That doesn't mean that he supports the war. But unfortunately, when you're friends with a guy like that, it isn't going to look good. This is the same context for people who were hanging out on Jeffrey Epstein's island. Yep. And I'm sorry, I don't give a fuck if you're left or right. If you're going to a known child molesting pedophile's private island, there's probably something, beyond that. Yes, and you're right. You can be friends with someone and not support everything they do, but it does have a carryover effect. And it is partly about the polarized elements within media, be it radical liberal media or radical conservative media. Because, again, we have it on both ends of the spectrum. And that's where we're having a hard time finding the middle ground.
As somebody who's been friends with some toxic people before in my life, there are times where it's like, yeah, I'll maintain that friendship and whatever, but there's a certain point that a line that somebody crosses that you're like, okay, that's reached a certain level of toxicity. I can no longer associate myself with this person. So that's something to think about. No help for you. Had 2 uncles come home and kill themselves after, Rebecca. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and it's tough. You know what I mean? It is definitely tough because it is because there is polarization. You know, and Ash has a viable point. Some of it is a double standard. You know, one side does it, then the other side freaks out. You know what I mean? And you have a lot of these elements. Now, again, I think to some degrees there are elements, and again, you know, say what you want regardless, you know, of this, but it doesn't look good. Like Jeannie says, Hunter Biden, you know, on the board of, you know, these multi-billion-dollar corporations, and you know what I mean? It doesn't look good. People look at that and they say, hey, this is fucked up, especially, you know, because the guy's got a drug history and stuff. So, you know, you put that all together, and right or wrong, fair or not, this is how the world works. We all react based on our perceptions, right or wrong. And that's why I like what Bill Maher said Friday night, is that we can't just cut off, or he was saying specifically, those on the left can't just dismiss everybody on the right.
No. Because
it isn't just about that. You know what I mean? But again, certain things are what they are. Yeah, you look at a Harvey Weinstein, and it's fucked up.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's fucked up. You know, that we allow certain elements because of money, because of prestige, and all these other things, that women or anybody, children, it doesn't matter, should have to pay the price and suffer for that. So that again is not just so much a cultural dynamic. It goes back to what I refer to again as that human dynamic. Okay? Just because you are this, that, or the other thing is not reflective of anything more. We're all unique and individual to a degree. You know, an asshole's an asshole regardless if he's a fucking Orthodox Jew, or if he's a conservative Christian, or a fucking tree-hugging hippie.
I miss being, like, having more moderate, instead of this direct polarized, far left, far right. I'm
well,
like,
I mean, it has to begin with,
in the land of
conversation.
sense.
We have to have the conversation.
Yeah.
We have to, again,
hey, Pam,
talk through some of these elements and say, hey, you know what? I understand that certain people feel the way that they do. I don't have to agree with it. I don't even have to like it. But we have to, I believe, be at least a little bit more open-minded. And again, I will say this, if you're a Christian or if you follow Catholicism, you know, one of the core tenets of that is forgiveness. Okay, so all of us, to some degrees, I think, need to kind of, you know, live, act, versus just talk about certain things.
Yep.
And you're right, some of the moderates are polarized on either side as well. Yeah, listen, it is tough.
It's sad.
It is tough.
But you know, whether we're far right, far left, or anywhere in between, we should be able to have an honest conversation, a good conversation, to where we don't like, oh, I hate you because you believe that way. Oh, I hate you because
I actually disagree with that, and that may be just because of what I've been exposed to. But I've actually found that the older generations tend to be more closed-minded, and the younger elements seem to be a little bit more open-minded to some of these concepts. And I could only equivalate that to is that they have not been hammered like you and I and others for as many years as we have. They're not as disillusioned. They're not as jaded. But again, some of this is like anything else. It's context. It depends on the type of exposure. Because of my son and some of the elements of the things I do, I interact a lot more with younger generational elements, be it musically, be it from, you know, counseling elements or whatever. Rebecca, if you're asking me if I believe in God, no, I do not believe in God in the classic religious context like, you know, Christianity or any of that. I do believe that there are elements out there that are beyond our understanding, and that they do take different forms for different people. For some people, that is God, and I respect that element. I don't try and ever take away anybody's belief, because I think that that is the beauty of it, is that it is our own perception, and whatever connection a person can make that brings them positive elements, joy, love, tolerance, I'm okay with. I'm just not okay with, the insanity on the other side, and more specifically, the double standard elements that go with it. Now, again, we all put words and faces on things based upon what we've been exposed to, what we've seen, what we've experienced, yada, yada, yada. I don't presume nor pretend to have the answers. I believe that there are elements out there outside of us that are definitely beyond our understanding. I believe that magic is real. And again, I'm not talking that Harry Potter kind of running around with a fucking wand type of shit.
Guardian Leviosa.
But just like we didn't understand radiation or microwave energy 100 years ago, these are elements that we're just not really at the point of truly being able to understand. And some of it's old. Some of it's old elements. Some of it is old lore that I think we've just forgotten. We've moved away from.
I think the easiest way.
And listen, that's beautiful to have a faith. As Pam says, amen. She believes in God and Jesus. That's the beautiful core concept of what we have here, at least within the United States, is that freedom. You're entitled. You have the right to believe in what you believe. You know what I mean? You have the right to be able to express that and not have anybody take anything away, or even more so, as Chris says, create a double standard that says this, that, or the other thing. Now, again, some of it gets a little bit mixed up. I personally believe, and I think there is a core group of Americans here who believe in the concept within the Constitution of separation of church and state. If you look at our history, we formed this country based off of religious persecution. We left the old country, England, Europe, and came here, and regardless of the context of, the Native Americans and the crap that went down with that, the core concept, the motivation was to create a society, a culture, where religion was not forced down your throat. And that the system, the government, whatever you want to call it, was separate from that. Okay? That your religion was yours and was personal, but the business, the framework of societal elements, keeping a culture, a civilization, rule of law, those types of things, had to be based off of other things. Now, again, that's not to take away from the context of religion, of faith, but religion and faith does not provide the answers in any context from elements of things within science. Now, you can make a case that God has presented us with the tools and say, here it is, you figure it out. There is, again, within that context of free will, and that's an important element, I think, free will, but also in that same element, okay, and there was a time not that long ago where religious elements were absolutely horrifying and barbaric, okay? You don't have to go that far back. You can go a little bit further. You can go back to the Crusades, but unfortunately, religion tends to be dipped in blood.
Yeah.
My God is better than your God. My God says, I got to kill you.
That's why I prefer spirituality.
Because we don't like your God.
Spirituality is all-inclusive, respectful of however anybody wants to relate to God. And
now Pam makes a great thing. You can be religious and believe in science, too. There's nothing within religion that says that science has no part in it.
Fully believe that.
And again,
they work together. Day without day without night.
In an honest framework, how could they? Because our religion was written in a time period where, you know what I mean? They didn't even have running water for most. None of these elements existed. Now, that's not to say, again, some people will get into the elements about, creationism and, did man live with the dinosaurs or evolution? You know what?
Doesn't matter. We're here now.
You can take that with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? I personally, I don't believe in the context of murder. Okay, but I believe in a woman's right to choose. I don't have to like it. I don't have to agree with it. But I also believe that in any society, for it to survive, any culture, any civilization, that you have to be cognitive of the differences in how people perceive and how they feel and how they choose to express certain elements of things. So, I mean, again, it's not to say that any one way is wrong versus another, unless it's Scientology. And I need to put that caveat out there because that's bullshit. Okay, I'm sorry. It's bullshit.
I have a contract here for you for 10,000
years. Yes, yeah. That is, I think, a great example of people taking the religious concept and weaponizing it, knowing full well, hiding behind the religious element. It basically...
Yeah, but what if I have a golden tablet?
Listen, it's a pyramid scheme that hides behind, the great golden cloak of Oz.
Well, what if I have a golden tablet and magical underwear?
Listen, I mean, again, you take it, but I do believe that there have been elements of miracles, as Pam says.
Yes.
And like Rebecca, I don't like in the judgment elements. Now, again, sometimes a duck is a duck is a duck. I'm sorry, but again, within a culture, within a civilization, if you've got somebody out there that's raping children, you're goddamn right I'm going to judge you. I'm going to judge you based on your actions and how it carries over onto other people. Not a perfect system. I'll be the first one to admit that, hey, it's a bit of that gray area. But again, we have to sometimes look at the context of the lesser of the two evils. I'm sorry, but if, there's no context, I believe that you can justify certain elements of things. Okay? You just can't. And I don't buy into this, this sketchy little area. Well, his religion says it's okay to fuck 5-year-old children. I'm sorry. Fuck you, no.
No, that's okay.
No. Because we all know, and if we're going to have the honest conversation, that man, as a generic element, men, women, binary, whatever the fuck you want to say, we can justify the shit out of anything. And we've seen it happen historically too many times. Okay, so yes, we do get to judge certain things within certain elements. Okay? That's why we have laws. That's why we have societal standards. Now, again, you don't have to agree with all of them. I don't like a lot of the taxation systems. I don't like a lot of the government overreach and stuff. But in the same instance, I don't want to get rid of the fucking police.
No.
I'd like it if we had a better system to get better police officers. But I don't believe that means that they all should be labeled as assholes and scumbags. Just in the same instance, as I said earlier, that I don't believe just because you happen to be conservative or right-wing, or because you supported Trump, that doesn't make you a Nazi. It doesn't make you a racist. Some people are Nazis and some people are fucking racist, and I'm sorry if you go out on social media talking about how everything is the Jews' fault, you're probably a fucking racist. Okay? And yeah, then I'm sorry, I got no tolerance for it.
5 things.
Becca, you have a great night. It was great to see you, hon.
Hey,
so,
Chanel.
yeah, there are a lot of different little elements of things. We could agree to disagree. We can find the common ground. But again, certain things, when they cross certain boundaries, we have to.
I think we all agree.
And listen, I mean, again, it's taken us, how long has it taken us just to get to the point now that we actually have at least the beginning of a better standard for women? Even within this own country, it's only been, a little over 100 years that women will be able to vote. It's only now, within the past couple of years, within the Me Too movement and stuff like that, that men are actually really beginning to be held accountable for some of the shitty behavioral patterns that have just gone on for fucking generations.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And it doesn't get talked about a lot. It doesn't get a lot of media attention because there's so much of it. You can go into any fucking city, and I don't give a fuck what city it is, a Democrat city, a Republican city, a Chinese city, a Mexican city, And the amount of rapes and violent assaults on women is fucking...
It's insane.
It's insanity. And it's a constant line that runs across all boundaries. Religion, race, economics. It is a human condition, and it has been reinforced through generations of misogyny and elements of behavioral patterns that have been reinforced. Now, again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at this and say, hey, you know, that this is fucked up. And Sabrina, no, I don't think you're wrong. And, you know, listen, some people think a lot of things. Some people think the world is flat. Some people think it's okay to fuck children. Some people think it's okay for a lot of crazy things. That doesn't make you wrong. And I don't think you're wrong for saying that most men get away with too much. You're absolutely fucking right. Most men do get away with too much because there's never been a line. There's never been an element that held an accountability to the degree that we are seeing what's happening today. And that's changing the dynamic, and I'm glad for it. Now, does it go a little bit too far and extreme? Yes. But that's what happens on everything. And that's the only way that we get to balance. Yes, it's going to swing way off in the other direction because you know what? Women have had enough. They're tired. They're angry. They're scared. Okay? And rightfully so. Okay? Because some of the shit that has been going on. Like, again, in what reality? And I ask anybody, in what reality, when a woman has been assaulted multiple times and has gone through the legal process saying, keep this man away from me, and then they just let him go back out and assault her, rape her, or worse, kill her. It happens every day all over the fucking place. Okay? And, you know, it's not acceptable. So how do you shift the dynamic? Well, you got to have some extreme elements where people are going to have to literally be made examples of to create a new standard to say, hey, there is a price to be paid. Okay? And again, it's not going to be perfect, but it has to begin somewhere. It has to. Because that's the only way it's going to change. Only way it's going to change. Now, again, use the same analogy, you know, with a lot of the issues and the conflicts. You know, Rebecca says she doesn't do abortions, and I applaud you for that. That's a personal choice. Every woman should have the right, in my opinion, to make that choice personally. It is a personal element. So, yes, there is a context within the morality. There is a context, obviously, within the religious frameworks or the cultural frameworks. But if we flip it around and use the analogy, and if we were to say, hey, men, unless you're going to accept complete and full legal and moral responsibility for impregnating a woman, or we're going to snip your dick, we'd be having a different conversation because we put the weight on the woman in regards to abortion. Okay, you know, and a lot of people say, hey, it doesn't matter if it's rape, it doesn't matter if it's incest, because it's a life. But we've now taken the element of choice away from that woman. We've taken away the element of free will. We've now forced a context, our personal context, into a situation without any element of responsibility for who's going to take care of the child. All these other elements. Yeah, you can make a case about, you know, oh, you can give it up for adoption, put it into the foster care system. Yeah, tell me how that really works in this country, and it doesn't. Okay, it doesn't. So where do we, again, draw the line and say, hey, listen, we want freedom. Nobody wants to be told you can't do this, especially if it conflicts with certain elements. So we can't have that double standard. You can't say in one element that you want freedom of speech, that you want these rights within our Constitution, but in the same instance say, hey, no, you don't get rights because it conflicts with my morality. And again, and I hate to say this, but in the simplest element, somebody who makes that choice, you know, if there is a context of a Christian God, say, well, you know what? They made that choice, and now they have to deal with answering to their God. It's personal, and we don't have, I don't believe we have the right. Sabrina says she was talking to her ex-pastor, a U.S. Marshal, about her CPS case, and he said most of what I was telling him didn't sound right, and said you was on the phone listening to the cops telling me there was nothing they was going to do about him abusing us. You know, again, unfortunately, and there's no justification, there's no excuse for this. A lot of people don't believe these elements. They don't feel that women should be complaining. It's fucked up. I have no answers. I really don't. I don't have answers for this. And Ash, you're right. There is the other side of the coin. You know, women who keep the babies when the men didn't want it. They should be able to have a choice as well. Women who trap men for money. Listen, again, human nature. There are a lot of fucked up elements, which is why, and I think that just reinforces why we have to allow people to make the choice for themselves. I don't know about you. I don't want to be responsible for somebody else's child. I don't want to pay for them. I feel bad. I don't want to see anybody suffer or hurt. But in the same instance, we got to be realistic about it. We can't just, arbitrarily, just be like, well, somebody else's problem. And Chris makes a great point here. She doesn't feel that men have the right to vote on abortion until every man whose father a child is paying for that child. That's a great point. A great point. I'll take it even further. Why do men have a voice on what women should do with their bodies? This should be decided between women. Again, I hate to say it, but simple truth.
Agree more.
You know what I mean? Just like, and I hate to say this, but, use the analogy. I don't discriminate against people because of their sexuality, but if a couple of bakers in Colorado don't want to make cakes for people who live in alternate lifestyles, that's their choice. That's their right. It isn't fair. I feel bad. You know what I mean? I don't care who's sucking whose dick. It's not my problem. But for some people, that is a problem. And if that means they don't want to interact with that, then you know what? They kind of have the right to do it. Just like I have the right. If I don't want to walk into a fucking Arby's because their food sucks, I'm not going to buy Arby's. So I just drive on down the road. It doesn't mean that I have to burn Arby's down because I don't like it.
Not at all. Same.
Because again, it's human nature, Ash. And Ash says, why do people keep, going to it just to make a problem? Well, that's indicative of a broken system. Yep. That's indicative of broken cultural elements. Listen, there's a long laundry list of different aspects of these things that you can say, yeah, that's fucked up, and that's fucked up too. And that over there is fucked up, and yeah.
And there's always going to be somebody that, I don't care how good the system is, there's always going to be somebody who will go in and try to hack the system, break the system, make the system work.
Oh, yeah. It's the same context. Why do people, try and scam senior citizens? You want to talk about a horrible, fucked up karmic element that's somebody that preys upon old people? Now, me personally, and again, I want to footnote this with that I am not endorsing violence. I'm not. But the Brooklyn side of me, if you did that to my mother or my grandmother, I'd fuck you up. I'm sorry. Okay? I would go old school Roman. I would take you out back. I wouldn't kill you, but I would beat the shit out of you and remind you that there's a consequence for taking advantage and hurting innocent people.
Yep.
I call that the old Knights Code, to take care of those who can't take care of themselves, to protect those who need protecting and defending because it is the right thing to do, not because I'm getting paid for it, not because somebody is praising my name, not for glory, because it's the right thing to do. All right, it's fucked up. You shouldn't take advantage of an old person. Okay, people shouldn't have to go through the elements of the things that they go through. It's not fair. It's not fair to women. It's not fair to children. It's not fair to men to be trapped into an element or to be stereotyped because the guy next door pulled his dick out. That all of a sudden, oh, I get it. We're all going to have to pay a price to a different degree. You know what I mean? But that's what makes us stronger, I believe. When we recognize that, listen, some of this is a trade-off. Sometimes it is the lesser of the two evils. But this is how we grow. This is how we learn, okay? It's never going to be perfect. We have to accept that. So we have to try to the best of our ability, again, at least in my opinion, to find ways that we can help each other, that we can love each other, that we can learn to be accepting of differences, regardless of what they are. Again, within reason, unless you're a Scientologist. And again, I will always go back to that because that's one of my pet peeves. Well, listen, I have certain pet peeves. Scientology being one of them. Veterans issues another. I've just seen for too many years the bullshit that we talk. I saw too many, you know, and I grew up in this context. You know, when I was younger, I saw the carryover as a child of Vietnam, and I watched that as it kind of, you know, shifted through the years, and then, you know, we had Iraq and we've had Afghanistan, and I've just seen it too much. It's fucked up and it's bullshit. You know what I mean? We talk about money, money, money. We got money for this and money for that, and fucking money for Exxon and CNN and Fox and Paris Hilton and the Kardashians and stuff. But you're telling me the kid that went and fought for all the things that we have has to live in a fucking cardboard box because he can't get a VA appointment to be able to at least get a place to live. It's pathetic, and it's appalling the way we treat our veterans.
Yeah.
And I think that's a dynamic that absolutely has to change. I also think it's a dynamic that absolutely has to change with things like our first responders, our nurses, okay? A lot of our frontline people who go out of their way to help and take care of everybody else tend to get the shit end of the stick. And I'm sorry, but in what reality should somebody flipping burgers make more than a nurse? I'm all about equal rights. I'm all about equal pay. Okay, don't get me wrong. But there's something wrong when a burger flipper makes more money than a fucking nurse.
They need to raise minimum wage to a livable standard, but they need to proportionately raise the skilled and involved.
But it has to be done in, I believe that it has to be done in a framework that is realistic within certain economic elements. AKA, if you force that context, a lot of business can't function, and they go out of business, and then there are no fucking jobs. So what's better, the $12 an hour job or the no dollar an hour job? You know, sometimes it's a trade-off. I get it. I'm all against the corporate greed. I think there's a lot of bullshit that goes on and fuckery that, you know, we do need to call out. Ash makes a great point. Praising trade schools, not just colleges.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, there's a lot of different rooms. So before we get caught up too much, one of the things I said we were going to do tonight, and I was going to promo out the Demons video. Now, the Demons track started many years ago, literally in the basement, the garage, Tony Rodriguez's garage, when we had first started Broken Past. And it was basically a reflective element about the journeys that we go through and the conditioning and the traumas and the experiences that create the quote-unquote demons that we carry. You know, the horrors, the fears, the anxieties, whatever you want to call them, I call them demons. And in creating the song was in many ways therapeutic. It was shadow work for me, but it was also a way to express these elements, to share with them, to show, hey, listen, we all have a lot of these aspects in common. And when we can look at things from that element of that commonality, then we can not only understand each other better, but we can help each other better. And recently, with Matt Brown now doing the vocals and stuff, I've started to take a little bit different take on some of this. So when my son and I sat down, and my son did the bass work for this track, we were debating about how were we going to present the track. And he made the suggestion, well, let's do an anime music video. Because for him and a lot of the younger generation, anime, not unlike comic books and music, is a form of expression within a generational element. And it does. Anime goes into a lot of different aspects of the human condition: fear, love, honor, the challenges, the conflicts, the confusion. It's just a different format. It's a different way of expressing it. So he and I decided that we were going to take the elements of the song itself and use the visual context from the anime mashup to create a little bit more of a, I guess, a more reaching piece that had some different elements to it. Now, again, not everybody's into animation or those types of things, and obviously musical taste being what it is. But in this,
it's a great personal expression across the board, and the imagery, even if you've never watched anime, the imagery I think that you chose for this video really helps express the internal conflicts. I think
that's one of the things that I hope to do. Again, there's never a perfect thing, and I don't want to come across as ego-driven because, you know, bluntly, and that's no offense to anybody, if one person gets something out of it, I'm happy. Don't get me wrong, I would love it if thousands of people, please feel free to take this and share it with everybody, talk about it. You know what I mean? Because that's what it's there for. That's why we created it. It's not something that you have to go on Apple or Spotify and pay money for, which is, again, why we chose to do it in the framework that we did, so that way people could enjoy it and they could share it. And it didn't matter if you had money or not. It wasn't about the money.
It's about the music and the experience.
So, without further ado, as they say, I am going to now... I'm going to turn that off, and I am going to now promo out, for the first time on the YouTube, the completed album version of Demons. So, again, I hope you enjoy it, and we will be back in a moment. So yeah, that was Demons. As it will be released on the upcoming album, the video again is presented as an anime music video. And, you know, unfortunately, as with all things in life, there are little hoops that we have to jump through in regards to certain expressions of elements of things. And again, you know, like everything, it is perspective driven. I wanted it, and some of it is very personal for me. Those of you that do know me and been following the podcast or know me in real life, the aspects of a lot of what I do in conjunction also too with my son and with Shiya, obviously. We work really hard to exist as a family. So we try and do things together. We game together. We talk together. We try and have meals together. And I do music with my son, and I do music with Shiya. We share these elements of things because we all bring different elements to the table. They're different elements of expression. Those of you that are familiar with Her Desperate Mind, it's a little bit different track, a little bit different take, and it's Shiya that sings it. These new tracks are, again, a guy that I've been blessed to have in my life right now, Matt Brown, really gifted vocalist,
quite talented.
And
really
here's the crazy thing, and I'm gonna promo some of this stuff on an upcoming podcast. You know, Matt's also the singer for an industrial metal band, and I'm talking some hard metal. Listen, again, I respect many aspects of music. I like different aspects of music depending upon my mood and the situation. I like metal, I like rock, I like folk, I like jazz, I like blues, you know what I mean? And they'll vary.
Celtic.
Depending, Celtic, classical, you know, wide spectrum. Very, very wide spectrum. And my music reflects that. You know what I mean? I don't feel compelled. I'm not doing this from a commercial context. So I express things based on what I feel and the people around me. And in that aspect, it was important to me, not only because, you know, the monkey was part of recording the track, and I think he did a really great bass line for it, but also in presenting it, that, you know, he has part of this reflects him as well, too. The song was written as a kind of a group expression at the time. It just never went into production because we left Broken Past before the song could be developed. But it was not unlike the track Dead to Me, that these were personal experiences and expressions and feelings that we were now translating into music to not only express it for ourselves, but to share it with other people. Say, hey, listen, we've been through these things. We share this in common. Fear is universal. Pain is universal. Love is universal. There are different variations on it.
Yeah.
Okay. But the baseline concepts are universal. And it kind of brings us all the way back around to all these squares do make a circle.
These squares make a circle.
Okay.
I don't think anybody.
And I said earlier tonight that anybody who knew what all these squares make a circle, what that reference is from, trivia. Would get a free reading from yours truly, the Old Wolf, because yes, I do readings, I do counseling, I do dream analysis, I do custom music and videos and commercials and all that shit. A couple of
different things, Mr.
We do a lot of different things.
Now, do you know what this means? Mr. Cuomo Universale.
What?
You've never heard that?
No.
It's the old Italian Renaissance, of course, he being Italian, concept of the universal man, the guy who can do a little bit of everything.
Fuck you, Kratos. Yeah.
So you are the universal man. You remember, man.
Yeah, listen, I do what I do. Ash. Really, Ash? Okay, Ash got it. Yes, Mr. Popo.
All these squares.
Wow. Ash was like, I will find.
She is the trivia queen.
I love Ash. I really do.
I do too.
I really do.
Which, by the way, Ash, did you want to tell everybody what you found inside of your custom?
I forgot to give you the pictures to show off the custom sweatshirt that you got from Tony.
What did you find? What did you find in your pocket? Was there something weird in your pocket? She's like, you laid it out. She had to find out. Wow, Rebecca, that sounds like some serious
Jesus.
trauma elements.
Yeah, listen, you know, and really, you know, again, not to make light
I have
of
to
it
say,
or
most
anything.
of us
It's just
have horror stories of some
there's just
nature like that.
so much of this, you know what I mean? And it really is, I believe, in my heart and in my mind, you know, a conditioned element. Men are conditioned to look at women as objects. We're not taught correctly in most, if not all, of those elements. And that's not a blame thing. It is something that has just unfortunately carried over,
I really do.
you know, generationally, you know, and using the analogy of you know, what Rebecca just described, yeah, it translates into these horrible trauma elements that women and children and men too, you know, listen, I mean, again,
but the good news is you have.
but it is overwhelmingly more women who are objectified.
The good news is, Rebecca, you have survived 100% of your worst days, so you're kicking some ass.
And listen, for whatever this is worth too, and I mean this wholeheartedly, thank you for sharing that. It is incredibly hard, and I think it's one of the most powerful things that we can do as humans, and I say that lightly,
because not everybody
is to share these elements. They're horrible, they're dark, and they're painful, but they represent a core truth, you know what I mean? That when we share them, it allows people to not only relate, but to put some contrast. You know, a lot of times we'll walk around and I'll feel like, oh, this is really fucked up that happened to me. And again, this is not to make any slight of this, but, you know, Rebecca comes and says, and shares this element. And then I'm looking and saying, you know what? My shit isn't anywhere near as bad. It gives us perspective. It's unfortunate that it has to be at the expense of a traumatizing event. But this is also, I believe, and I believe this as a therapist and as a counselor, this is how we move forward. This is how we heal. This is part of the core concept of strength in numbers, that we don't just share the good. We need to share the bad. We need to share our pain and our fear so that they don't have the debilitating powers and side effects that they do for a lot of people.
Those of us who do have our trauma stories, when we share them, we are, like you said, able to heal. We're able to get support from one another. Some people who have similar stories can say, you know, hey, you know, you're not alone. We can go through this together. And it just goes to your wonderful strength in numbers analogy. And that we are here for each other.
And Rebecca, I get it. I wish I had an answer for you. I have theories. You know, and Rebecca says, and for those of you, again, who are not watching, I do have the chat up on the thing, but she says she was only 7 years old. Why would her mother tell her to shut up? Fear would be my first, again, theory. There could be other elements of trauma from her own experiences that created, in some fucked up way, either a disconnect or a denial element. You know what I mean? Those would be the easier go-tos. It doesn't make it right. It doesn't justify it. It doesn't change it. And that's the shit end of the stick in this type of scenario. And I think we can all agree that if we all had a nickel for every fucked up element of a fucked up person in a fucked up scenario, we'd all be rich. And this is, you know, this is the great paradox. It's not going to make sense. We're not going to understand it. You can't understand it. Okay? You can't understand aspects of dysfunctionality and insanity and that deeper, darker, call it evil, call it whatever the fuck you want. But if you're outside that box, there's no way to relate to it. There's no way to really understand.
Well, what I can say,
but I can tell you this, Rebecca, it wasn't your fault. You did nothing wrong. This is a classic example, and I believe that this is a true variable. People are victimized. They are traumatized by elements, by other people and situations and scenarios, and there is no other context. There's nothing else that we can do besides try and learn what we can and move on. to heal, to grow. Again, you know, it is unfortunately, it is a lesser of the two evils, because I think, again, the other side of the coin opens up much worse elements of depression and despair. Please go ahead.
I think one important thing to say is there was at one point a very big cone of silence on traumatic elements like this.
Yes.
Any kind of traumatic elements, especially sexually traumatic elements. If there was, this is don't ask, don't tell, we don't talk about it, there's a cone of silence. Thank the gods we are in a more open society now where we are encouraging people to come forward, that we don't have to hide in silence. And that's not forgiving people that were saying, hey, let's shut up about it in the past. But we are at least creating a new reality to where people don't feel like they have to shut up. And Rebecca, you sharing your story here, thank you very much. That, again, reinforces that we are here together, standing together, supporting one another throughout difficult situations.
And more importantly, for whatever this is worth, if nothing else, to reinforce the simple context that it isn't your fault, that you didn't do anything wrong, okay? It is not a reflection of you, of anything more than, you know, an unfortunate and really, you know, shitty, horrible moment in time. You know what I mean? And there's just no other way. There are too many aspects of it, unfortunately, and I don't want to discredit it, nor do I want to take away from it, because it is a personal, deep aspect.
I think what we're really trying to say is you have been heard, your voice is valuable, and thank you.
Well, that's definitely one way to put it.
Yeah.
But I have to make a commentary because Sabrina took a cheap shot. She's like, oh, laugh out loud. We are men. Oh, look, something shiny. No, honey, it's something different than that. It's like, oh, wow, I wonder what that looks like naked. Can I stick my dick in it and then run away from it?
Literally, men think that way sometimes.
Yes.
Especially
it's not the shiny.
Not brought up.
It is a combination of conquest and possession.
I must own.
But it is also, unfortunately, a warping and a twisting of the sexual biological dynamic to want to basically just rut. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to sound like a prude. I enjoy sex. Okay, I think a lot of people do enjoy sex, and that, you know, that's cool. If you don't, whatever. But there is, unfortunately, there is a warping and a twisting of those elements that unfortunately end up in aspects of like what ended up happening to Rebecca.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that is the dark, ugly side of that aspect. And, you know, Sabrina, I'm joking around. I know you weren't doing anything more than just expressing yourself, and I joke with you in this context. But it is, again, a conditioned element.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And unfortunately, it is reinforced in a lot of elements of the cultural aspect. We've talked about it before, and unfortunately, we'll have to talk about it again. You know, sexuality has been weaponized from so many different levels that it can be very confusing.
And it's been weaponized by all the sexes.
Yes, it has. But listen, in fairness, I think women have been on the short end of the stick. Now, granted, I'm a little bit biased. As a man and as a parent, and especially as a single parent, I've seen the elements that I have in my life. I know that isn't all-encompassing, but I've seen enough of it for me to at least believe to the degree that as men, we have an accounting that is due. We have to, as men, not only talk about it honestly, but we need to call it out in other men, and we need to, no pun intended, teach our children.
Yep.
That's where the pattern breaks. We have to teach our children. We have to teach young men better.
Yep.
We have to set better examples. More important, because words are empty without the actions to back them up. So you can't talk about it and then go out there to Hooters and grab the ass of the 18-year-old waitress just because, well, she dresses that way, she must like it.
Yeah,
it's bullshit. Right? And it comes out in subtle ways that, as men, we do not understand. We really don't, because it's not a context that we experienced. And I'll use an analogy, and this has been shared with me by women at different points. As men, we don't even have to say anything. It's a look. You know, if you look at a woman and she's attractive and you start undressing her and you start fantasizing about fucking her, empathy suggests that a lot of women are going to pick up on that vibe, and they may actually pick up on that mental imagery, and that's offensive.
Yep.
That's just, you know, only 2 steps short of rape.
Oh, I know. I have.
Now,
I haven't seen this.
I understand that is a bit thin line for those women, unfortunately, who have experienced physical rape. Yep. But the analogy still holds from a context of perspective and what is offensive and what's not. I understand that we can't always control that, but we can, if we talk about it and if we're honest about it, try and be a little bit more cognitive. Try and look at it from the other side of the face. You know, catcalling, you know, hey, baby, you know what I mean? It's offensive. Women don't like it as a generic rule. Now, again, some women might. That's their choice. And you can make a case that if a girl's in a strip club on a pole,
then
swinging around for money, well,
she wants,
that's where I begin to have a little bit more harder time. Now, just because she's in a strip club on a pole
doesn't necessarily mean she wants to
doesn't mean she's a whore. Doesn't mean you can stick your finger in her ass.
Truth.
However, again, this is where we need that communication. That's where we need a little bit better understanding. And again, I'll use the word again, empathy, and trying to understand what the dynamic is, why certain things are what they are. Because simple logic suggests if we don't understand what's broken, how do we fix it?
Truth.
Okay? And I don't want to be like a dog chasing its fucking tail on the street. I'd rather deal with something honest, even if it's uncomfortable, unpleasant, and uncool. Okay? Truth is better than bullshit. It always is better than bullshit, because at least with truth, you can change a thing. Okay? And that is, in its simplest context, the difference. It's how we move forward.
Now, I will say, Ash, women with other women in strip clubs are a lot more free than they allow men to be. I mean, you're telling a story about somebody stealing your bra during a lap dance. Honestly, I've had my bra stripped and stolen too, so I get it. It happens, but let me tell you, they're more comfortable with women because we women will, even if we're playing around or whatever, tend to be a little bit more respectful.
But listen, some of it is also the double standard. That's why within all of our media, up until recently, it was totally cool to have two women, rubbing up on each other and kissing each other and da-da-da-da-da-da. Because that was sexy, that was erotic, that was cool. Lesbians are cool. But as soon as two guys got near each other, it's like, oh, that's fucking, that's horrible, that's perverse. Oh, you're sending the wrong, and it's a double standard. It's bullshit.
I'm surprised all the Christians haven't started protesting Discovery.
Listen, I mean, again, the world is changing, and, to some degrees, it has to.
Right.
And actually, you're right. A lot of times, women prefer other women because men are just, they're assholes in their approach, and it's not pleasant and it's not fun. Listen, how we feel is how we feel. I don't begrudge anybody. I don't care if you're a man, a woman, binary, somewhere in between, whatever the fuck it is, as long as it's within the context of A, honesty, and B, it's not carrying over, aka you don't get to justify molesting little children or anything that's outside the box. But, especially if, between two or more adults.
2 words, consenting adults.
Fair enough.
That's what I'm good with. 2 words.
Yeah, listen, Ash, it goes both ways. As a performer, as a guitarist, I've had women... I've had women come up stage, no joke, and literally try and grab my dick in the middle of a performance. I've had it happen. Okay? I didn't ask for it. I didn't invite it. But I've also seen on the flip side, backstage, I've seen women horribly abuse. I've gotten into physical confrontations because of it, and I have avoided for a better part of the last 20 years, that end of the spectrum, I don't perform anywhere near as much as I used to, and I don't perform within certain elements of things. You know, that's one of the things I will give my brother Tony Rodriguez and the guys at Broken Past absolute props for, is they are not a stereotypical band. They don't abuse women. They don't do drunken fucking weird shit. They are musicians. They're you know, Tony is a single father with a child. They are family men. Frank Acey, their singer, is married with kids. Brian and Wayne are straight up guys, you know, with girls. You know what I mean? They're not part of the stereotype, and they don't.
Big philanthropists as well. They're very much active in the community and helping out to the underprivileged, autistic. You know, all sorts of things that they do for the community.
But I have seen other musicians within other bands, and I'm not going to drop names as much as I would love to. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to be that asshole. I will just say that I don't give a fuck. Whatever context, be it rock and roll or a strip club or a prostitute you found on Craigslist. Okay? You don't get to just take advantage or manipulate or worse. Okay? And I'm sorry, if you get a woman drunk to fuck her, that's rape.
Yes.
Okay? It's rape, guys. It's rape. Okay? Sorry, there's no way around it. This is one of those elements as far as I'm concerned. There is no fucking middle ground. Now, if you get together with somebody and she's your girlfriend, she goes, hey, I want to get really drunk and I want you to fuck me silly, that's fine.
Yep.
That's fine. But if you go into a club and you slip a woman a rupee, or if you have a girl backstage and you purposely pump her full of alcohol knowing that your context is to get her stupid and manipulative to the degree to take advantage, that's rape, guys.
Yep.
It's not cool. Yep. It's not rock and roll. It's fucking rape.
Thank you.
Rape.
Mic drop.
Okay. Listen, truth is truth.
No,
and like I said, I've gotten into physical fights backstage because of that element. And I just refuse. You know, there's certain things that are, as far as I'm concerned, are fucking intolerable.
I mean, I don't
and those of you know me,
but
listen, when I was a younger man, I almost went to prison for almost killing a guy for beating up my sister. Okay? That is unfortunately, for me, one of those lines. And, granted, I'm not proud of it. I was younger and I was much more emotional. I didn't have a child. I didn't have responsibilities. I just had anger. And I had a framework from growing up because my father was an abusive drunk and beat up on my mother and beat up on me. That, for better or worse, at an early age, I saw some of the double standards and the dysfunctionality, and I didn't like it. So when this character put his hands on my kid's sister and beat her up, I lost my fucking mind. And I hurt him. And it almost came back and cost me a chunk of my life. I say this now. In retrospect, I say with a grain of salt. Do I regret defending my sister? No. Okay. Do I regret going as far as I went? Yes. Only in the context that we have to be responsible for our own actions, and, just because a scenario is bad doesn't give us the right. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes we have to do what we have to do in the moment, but I went too far. And I have to be honest, and I have to take that responsibility. And again, I got lucky. I had to learn a lot through those years, and not only how to better channel my anger, but in where some of these perspectives and these triggers came from. Why I was reacting the way I was. But again, another story for another day. Hey, Michelle, it's great to see you, sis. Welcome on. Yeah, you made it for the last 14 minutes, but it is great to see you. So listen, we all go through it. We all make mistakes, sometimes even with the best motivation. I believe that we should, especially when the situations call from it, sometimes it is the lesser evil. You know what I mean? If you see somebody getting, raped or, attacked in the street, I would rather do the right thing, even if it means that there's a better, you know what I mean? Because sometimes it really is that trade-off. It is the lesser of the two evils. I know that sounds redundant. And, again, you have to look at everything from the context. So, in my case, in the situation, I reacted to what I believed was, again, the needed response, because I didn't believe that it was going to stop in any particular aspect. I've seen at that age, even at 19 years old, I had already seen the pattern for many years within my father and stuff like that. So, it is what it is. Sabrina makes an interesting point. Her ex wanted a threesome with her and him and another man, and she said no because it sounds creepy and not okay with, but each their own. Mm-hmm. This is, again, a dynamic within men, and I will say this as a man, that is, unfortunately, more times than not, it is an illusionary context. And let's call it for what it is. Men have these preconceived notions, be it from pornography or from any other elements of things. And I'm not saying that to take a shot at pornography. I would much rather somebody watch porn and jerk off than go rape somebody or molest a child. I know that sounds like an extreme analogy, but you know what? Again, as others have said, to each their own. If that's your thing, go for it. But when it carries over into reality, then it becomes a problem. You know what I mean?
Yes, and people have that really hard time between reality and fiction.
Right. They think that somehow they're missing out, that somehow that there's something better here. And here's the context, Sexuality is unique to the individual. A lot of it sometimes gets convoluted, like, what is it that, what are we really looking for? A lot of times men want the threesome with another woman because, again, they believe that, that there's something enamored within, right, that makes them powerful and, all this other weird shit. And it doesn't work that way. But on the other side of the coin, a lot of times that's sometimes an expression of bisexuality. It's like, I don't really want to touch your dick, but why don't you bring your dick along so I could watch you fucking, you know what I mean? There's a lot of different elements that, who the fuck knows? I can say this, and I will give you props for this. Nobody should ever do anything, especially in a sexual context, if it's something they don't want to do. Okay, you shouldn't. You shouldn't do something that you don't want to do. I understand that we all make certain concessions and we will make certain sacrifices for the people in our lives. You may be like, well, I really love him.
Necessarily be my thing.
I don't like sucking his dick, but I'm gonna do it because listen. Again, there context, different situations. It has to begin with communication. But it also comes from understanding why we feel the way that we do. What is it that attracts us to it? What is it dynamically? Not just it's something to do, or because a lot of times it really is a lie. It's an illusion.
Yep.
Men will say, hey, let's have a threesome, baby, to spice up their sex life, when all they really want to do is fuck another woman.
Or in this case, another guy.
Yes, Judy, I can see your comments. Okay, and that's an honest truth. A lot of men use that particular little fucking dance-off because they simply can't be honest and be like, they want to have sex with somebody else. They don't like the sexual element for whatever reason, or they're off on some other tangent, so they'll look to bring something else. Now, with that being said, some people can live that alternate lifestyle. They can have multiple partners. They can be right. And again, I'm not judging it. It's not for me personally, but I don't begrudge it within a healthy context. Okay.
They want Boston.
Now, I will footnote that with a lot of times those elements, I don't believe are healthy because they're non-honest. They're usually based either from misogyny, I want multiple wives because my religion says that God wants me to be fruitful and multiply. Bullshit.
But
You're just you're an asshole, and you just, you want to have your cake and eat it too. Now, again, I'm not saying that it can't work, but more times than not, it's bullshit. It's a bullshit excuse. It's a bullshit context to wrap around and hide to basically justify a particular behavior. It's the same thing that these characters who are like, well, the Bible says it's okay to have sex with children. Fuck you. I don't care if the Bible says that or not. I don't know where in the Bible it says that. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't care whatever your justification is. You don't get to have sex with children. Okay? No.
Not allowed.
Sorry. Game over. But all these squares do make a circle. So, Ash, honey, I owe you a reading. So you just let Shiya know when you get some time, and you and I will get together. Maybe we'll do a dream analysis, because I know you've been dancing some interesting dreams. So you can translate however you want for getting that trivia question. Yeah, listen, there's a lot of different variations. And listen, let's be honest. Unfortunately, the tide has turned in a lot of ways, and women have adopted some of these toxic behaviors as well, for better, for worse. Some of it as defensive, some of it for whatever reasons. And no, you know what? I'll have to agree to disagree with you here, Rebecca. They're not all sick. Some of this is conditioning. Some of it is trauma. Some of it is confusion. It's not all sick. Some of it is sick. Okay, you're right on that. But not all of it. It's not fair to just, at least again in my humble opinion, to dump everybody into it, because some people are just into certain things, and that's what works for them, for better or for worse, right or wrong. And again, as long as it's not hurting anybody else, or again, in a framework, like again, I don't want to watch you fuck a squirrel. I'm not saying you, Rebecca, or anybody personally here. I'm just saying that in the generic statement.
Oh, God.
Now, again, if you want to fuck squirrels in the comfort of your home where none of us have to see it, that's your right. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. And you might have some problems with PETA.
I'm calling PETA.
Okay. I'm not condoning it. I'm not endorsing it. And I'm not supporting or suggesting. But in the same instance, I'm not going to crucify you because you fucked a squirrel. Okay? I'm just not. It's not important enough to me to make an issue out of it.
I will look at you sternly.
Again, that's just the way it is.
With a weird, disgusted look on my face.
Now, I don't want that to sound weird or dismissive, but you know what? We have more important things to worry about than who's fucking who. Unless you're fucking children, or you're fucking somebody without their consent. There again, context.
In which case, I think
Context.
you ended up having your balls chopped off, but that's just me.
Hey, listen, I think if men were held to some of the standards that we expect women to be held to, then we could get rid of a lot of these problems. Like, let's make, again, men have to get fucking, you got to register your dick. And if your dick's someplace it's not supposed to be and it comes up on the GPS, you're fucked.
We shall
quite literally
decorate them with a rusty spoon.
That's just like, I'll never think of putting the same. He always turns down butterscotch. I'm not even sure what the fuck that is.
Sure, that's
and I'm going to have to save that for another podcast.
The whole thing. You should show the beaver again.
Which beaver?
I don't pick a beaver.
Nah, we'll save that for another time.
Come on,
I want to do that when Suzanne's around, just so that way I can watch her squirm.
We'll keep it.
But listen, again, thank you as always for sharing the elements seriously, because this is how we grow, we learn. And I mean, it's not always pretty, it's not always funny.
We don't always agree on everything.
And we don't always agree.
Hell, you and I don't always agree on everything.
No, but I respect the elements that... Listen, and here it is in a nutshell. We're all from varying different elements of degrees. Culturally, religiously, geographically, age. We have a fucking crock-pot smorgasbord
we do.
of different types of people, and we're communicating. We're talking, we're expressing,
Respectfully.
we're sharing elements of things. Again, we don't have to agree, but I can still love you, and I can still say, hey, you're important. You matter enough
And
that
your
you're
voice
allowed to
matters.
feel these things. And I want to understand why you feel the way you do. I want to share with you why I feel the way that I do. Maybe we can find common ground. Maybe we can make things just a little bit better. We can help each other to the degree so that everything doesn't have to feel fucked up and overwhelming and, you know, disconnected and like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is going to happen next? And I don't mean to take the name of the Lord in vain, but I come from the George Carlin School of Religion, so I tend to do that. But I don't mean to hurt anybody. It's just my style, my way.
I say follow.
Some people, you know, I get it. I don't try and pretend it to be otherwise. I try and, you know, follow it up with the, hey, listen, this is just my way of expressing certain things. This is my opinion. Fuck you, Kratos.
I like the word fuck. We say fuck. You know, fuck is, it's like, oh, fuck. or
And, you
fuck
know, I mean,
or,
what better
oh,
way to
fuck.
close it out than the final?
Fuck.
All right, Witch, you get the final word.
Fuck.
You know, there's your final word, folks. Listen, again, as always, you can find us tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And guess what tomorrow night is?
It's What the Fuck Wednesday.
It's What the Fuck Wednesday. Yep.
What the Fuck Wednesday.
Fuck. Yes.
The podcast will be back next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes.
And again, you know, we have the contest, so, you know, send your concepts, your songs, your poems, your ideas
We want to hear your
to
voice.
contest at ladyshia.com.
Yes, tomorrow is the new moon. We will be doing some hell of a new moon manifestations, and we have some interesting astrological conjunctions on tomorrow's new moon that makes it really good for special new beginnings.
Sounds very interesting.
Now, see, I don't like tapioca pudding, Ash, but I love rice pudding, which I guess is similar in context, and I like the bubble tea, which has tapioca balls.
Okay.
She's talking about tapioca.
Well,
Tapioca. It's pudding.
I guess that's how it goes.
Yes.
So anyway, enjoy your pudding.
Pudding.
Thank you again. Know that you were loved. Or thank you, Sabrina. Or a beaver. Enjoy that beaver ass. Get down in there. Enjoy it for what it is. It's okay. Just try and get the beaver's consent. And with that, I'm going to close out and just remind you that I am just like you.